Thank you so much for joining us. It's the 4th of March 2025, and of course, it's still your current affairs program, TMI, coming to you live from our network studios right here in the city of excellence, Lagos State. My name is Joshua Okata. Today on the show, we will be looking at the current reshuffling going on in the Lagos State House of Assembly, with special bias to Mr. Mudashiru Obasa as he returns as the new Speaker of the House of Assembly. Of course, I have joining me right here is Mr. Jide Ologun. He is a legal practitioner. He will be giving us his perspective on the recent happenings in the House of Assembly, Lagos State, to be precise. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, before now, barely a week before today, we had a conversation right here on this table where we talked extensively on the legality of the removal of the former Speaker, Mr. Mudashiru Obasa. And of course, you said on this table that by law, it is not required by the Speaker to be present when a vote of no confidence is passed on him. So what suddenly changed now?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You see, the reference is to Section 92 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that stipulates the election and the removal of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker. And what it requires is the 2/3 of the members of the House. And speaking about Lagos State House of Assembly, there are 40 members, and about 36 of them decided to remove the Speaker, then Obasa. Even though he has gone to court and he's claiming that due process was not followed. So it is for the court to interpret the legal and constitutional issues involved there. But somewhere along the line, there was an invasion in court by DSS of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Even though DSS kicked back, they did not invade. We had another narrative that the House of Assembly invited the DSS on the suspicion that Obasa was coming to enforce himself back into office as the Speaker, because he rejected his removal. And then suddenly again, when the House of Assembly, the members, decided to adjourn sine die, which means indefinitely, Obasa, with the aid of some security operatives, found his way back to office, supported by about 4 House of Assembly members, and disclosed that he has returned as the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. And he stated clearly that those were his actions and nothing to do with the national body. But before then, there had been divisions among the Governance Advisory Council and some party members. And even the day he now returned to office on his own, about 36 members of the House of Assembly rejected him, which they stated clearly to the world, and expressed their support for Miranda, who emerged when Obasa was removed. But then another meeting followed by top party stalwarts, including Chief B.C. Akode, then a former governor of Ogun State. I think the Attorney General was the Attorney General of Lagos State, and the chairman of the party. And at the end of the day, as many have rumored from the grapevine, Miranda resigned, obviously for the interest of the party. And then there are other issues we discuss here.
All right. Now you've given us a background as to what happened, which to me and perhaps to many out there seems like a Fuji house of commotion, because obviously this back and forth is very, very unusual. Now, let's look at it from this angle. You said 36, which obviously means that more than 2/3 of the House passed their vote of no confidence on Mr. Mudashiru Obasa before he left. Suddenly, there was a twist of event and he returned back. The same members of the House now has no choice but to accept him. Now, there is this, reactions, there's these opinions out there that there is seemingly a foul play where the same speaker, I'm talking about Mojisola Miranda, said the reason she's acting is in obedience to the party. Now, my question to you is, are we having individuals who are more powerful than institutions? In this case, the party.
Now, let's talk within the context of the Nigerian politics. There are about 4 levels of political interest. You have the national interest, you have the state interest, you have the party interest, and you have the personal interest. And all these are intertwined. What some of the reports that came out when Obasa was removed was that the president wasn't happy with it because he was not consulted on it, because he is perceived to be a loyalist of the president. And that is why some asked the question. The DSS is answerable to the presidency. So who sent the DSS? And I recall I alluded to what happened in 2018 when the DSS barricaded the National Assembly when Saraki was the president of the Senate. And when they were challenged, they said order from above. And as at that point in time, Professor Osinbajo was the acting president because the former president Muhammadu Buhari was out of the country on a 10-day leave or so. And what Osinbajo did was to fire Lawal Daura, the DG of DSS. But in this case of Lagos State, no consequence has come. In fact, Obasa had to even appeal to the DSS for the drama and everything. So you pick it from there. So some are saying the wish of the president is that he should be restored back to office. And of course, you ask a question which has to do with democracy. Democracy is a game of the majority, but then that is in an ideal situation.
But if you look at the body language, especially at the House of Assembly yesterday, some persons like the former Nollywood actor, whom you know very well, was making statements with teary eyes, which shows that they are feeling some sort of regret that Mojisola Miranda is leaving. I'm talking about Desmond Elliott, who was shedding tears, and some other members. It shows you that they are not happy over her resignation yesterday. And now my question to you will be, some persons are saying what is playing out now is somewhat synonymous with what played out during the period Fashola was the governor of Lagos. And as alleged, some persons are saying that at a point in time, Ambode was about to be fired, perhaps when found wanting when it comes to financial misappropriety. And then there was this notion that he shouldn't be fired, he should be allowed to resign for the sake of his future ambition. Now, putting that side by side with what I'm going to ask you now, is it what is playing now? Because some persons, as I said yesterday, said even if Obasa returns back to the House as a new speaker, in a few days from now, he would announce his resignation to give way for someone who would be the new speaker from Lagos West to take the reins of power. Are we seeing something that played out back then, just as I said, maybe because they don't want Obasa's profile to be stained or marred by him being sacked for reasons best known that he might want to run for some level of positions of authority much later?
You cannot rule that out. Beyond that, I mentioned party interest. Obasa has his clout, he has his loyalists, and he's a strong member of APC in Lagos State. You cannot rule that out, particularly in the Agege constituency. So what about if he decides to jump boats, which is common in the political arena? So in situations like this, you need to weigh the balance. And let me say this, I commend Lagos State for the conflict resolution strategic approach. You can compare Lagos State to what is going on in Rivers State now. You see, so a lot of issues would have been considered. And fine, one of the reasons expected was that, okay, it's better for him to step down willingly from that office. I think he has occupied that office since when? It was 2007 or so. Than for him to be thrown out, not just for his political ambition, but for the followership he has in the party. And that is why a meeting was called between the two of them. And this brings us to the theory question you asked. These are not emotional issues. You know, in the secondary school, we learned about separation of powers, talking about the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. And all three are involved in this Obasa gate, in the sense that as we speak now, the matter is in court, and I speak without prejudice to the matter in court, but I suspect that matter will be withdrawn eventually, you see. So the legislative arm is to benchmark and to checkmate the activities of the executive and the judiciary. But we have found in Nigeria that the executive arm appears more powerful than the legislative arm, you know, because by virtue of the Constitution, Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the National Assembly shall be empowered, and by extension the House of Assembly at the state level, to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria, and to have oversight function. So the legislative arm of government actually has the power to make the executive arm perform and deliver good governance to the citizens. And Section 5 empowers the president with the executive prerogatives of the nation as the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And Section 6 empowers the judiciary. You see, so you see that interplay. But here we are now, the 36 supporters of Miranda have been quietened, you know, and they appear to have no choice. So, and that brings us to the question that remains to be answered. Is this the spirit of democracy, where 36 members are saying this is what we want, and the minority, though when you talk about minority, you also need to look at the stature of the minority.
So which brings us to the issue that personal interest is overriding national and party interest.
In Nigeria, you cannot rule that out.
No, but what we're looking at now, are you saying that personal interest is overriding these two?
It should be argued that it's still about party interest. But by and large, personal interest is a driving force, even when you talk of party interest, because people have jumped boats. And I have my precedents. I mean, right now we have a very active Yeson Wike, who is in PDP. He has not decamped from PDP and is very prominent in APC. So can you now claim party loyalty in respect of Wike? Well, no, he's driving his political ambition, and he has one leg in PDP, another in APC. So from what we have seen in Nigeria, the primary driving force may be the personal ambition interest, you see. And here we are now. And I must also commend Miranda, who decided to step down. And in HR, we talk about the glass ceiling. So there are several issues here, you know, because analysts may bring in the concept of, oh, is Lagos State saying they are not ready for a female speakership or whatever, because she's, I mean, in history now, the first elected female speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly by virtue of Section 92 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and she has stepped down. And of course, there is also this formula that she's from the Apapa constituency and it's not their turn now, you know, all those party issues. But I commend APC for being able to resolve this without allowing it to generate into a big, messy crisis, because the talks were ready, the extrajudicial approaches, you know, and that is some of the things you associate with
So when you say the talks were ready, does it now endorse the fact that what people were saying as at yesterday, that her life was under threat? Was that why she gave in to resigning?
I won't confirm
And must
that.
she always be the sacrificial lamb?
I won't confirm that her life was under threat. Her life could not have been under threat. It is too, that office is too high for anybody to want to take her life. That would be too, I don't know. That would be a very big mistake on the part of any group of persons. But basically, there were actions that led the minds of people to what was coming. For instance, the security details of Miranda got withdrawn by the police. Again, talking to the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly, the issue of state police is there. As we speak now, the Nigerian police is answerable to the federal government, the presidency, so to say.
Can I throw in a question? Can I throw in a question based on what you just said? Because if you say that at some point in time, Mojisola Miranda's security details were withdrawn, and just as you said now, the Nigerian police is answerable to the federal government, by extension, Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president, is it not contradictory of a sort when you said at the time Obasa was removed from office, Tinubu was not aware? How could that be that he wasn't aware? Yet, the police or the security details attached to Miranda was withdrawn. Could it not have been the president who gave that order? That's number one. Number two, my question to you would be, some persons on the other side of the divide are saying that Obasa at some point derailed. He tried to show himself as being too powerful than the party when he showed his intentions towards running as the next governor. Perhaps that was what precipitated his remove, which made him go back to mend fences, and now he seems to have learned and then brought back. What's your take on this?
Okay, let me take it from the back end. Talking about his learning his lessons. Maybe he's the proverbial Nebuchadnezzar in the scripture.
So his position was reserved until his madness was over.
The grouses his colleagues had was that he was high-handed. In fact, there were allegations of about 17 billion naira spent to construct the gate of the House of Assembly. Some millions of naira spent on some events which he denied, and he asked them to prove. And again, under the Constitution of Nigeria, you see, allegations cannot just stand. They must be proved beyond all reasonable doubts, which gives presumption of innocence. You see, and again, that is a question for the House of Assembly. If you have come up with these allegations, if they are true, why should such a person occupy office? Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. You see? So those are issues. But you see, in Nigeria, those issues are thrown aside. And I have my precedent. The former acting chairman of EFCC was thrown out of office on allegations of corruptions and different kinds of allegations. But he was never prosecuted for those allegations. So these are issues.
So are we saying right here now that those were just witch hunts, just to make him learn his lessons when he showed that intention to run as the next governor? That's my question.
I cannot say. There is the stakeholder group of the governor, because at a time Obasa was perceived as not giving the governor of Lagos State his due respect. You see, and he was also perceived as ambitious, and that is why people started coming out to say it's not from Lagos, it's from Ogun State and things like that. You see, in politics you find those things. So learning his lessons, he must have learned his lessons, because in conflict resolution there are about 7 steps, but I'll just mention a few. You identify the source. Where is this conflict? You cannot rule out conflict. You identify the interest, the patches, then you identify the common ground. You come together to discuss, you agree on what the consensus should be, and you implement. So the meetings, the high level meetings they have held within the party, and I commend APC for that, would have discussed a lot of issues. There would have been different recommendations, and there would have been different offerings, because Miranda returned back as the deputy speaker. So it's not as if she's now going to the floor. So you call that compromise. you compromise. There are several approaches. When you talk about collective bargaining in human resource management, you can go there coercing, you can go there collaborating. So right now, he must have learned his lessons, and the party will also be watching him, because I've mentioned some issues now. You see, at the party interest level, APC cannot afford to lose Lagos State to another party. And you know Lagos is volatile in terms of opposition. In fact, I've been reading some shake-ups in some other parties now, but that's not our discussion for today. So for politicians, it's about the next election. So now, but for the statesman, it's about development.
As we coast home, it then means that Obasa has so much debt, in fact so much garbage under his closet. But the point is, the APC chose not to look into it until they find him wanting, especially when it becomes very much too powerful for the system that be. True or false?
I cannot confirm that. I'm not in the House of Assembly. But they rolled out allegations, and I'm putting them to
just to stain him and make him look blemish.
I don't know whether that was the purpose. If that was the purpose, then may I say we should have a questionable House of Assembly that cannot come out with facts.
It is actually the purpose, because nobody's talking about it anymore.
You are the one saying it's the purpose. I have challenged them. Let me give you an example. When Malami was the Attorney General of the Federation under former President Muhammadu Buhari, they wanted Onohe out as the CJN, the Chief Justice of Nigeria in the Supreme Court. They came up with this issue of disclosure of assets, and before you knew it, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, they threw the man out. The man went to court, and when the new Attorney General saw where the matter was, he forfeited some of his properties. They came together and resolved and restored his properties to him and settled out of court. And now what has happened in Lagos State is political resolution, and I expect that that also will be embraced in Rivers State. You see, let's focus on developing this country. We are tired of all this, but when it comes to power play, their muscles flex. Let that muzzle flex towards national development, and I think those are my submissions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ologun, for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. God bless Lagos. God bless Nigeria.
All right, that's our offering today from the Lagos end, and of course we'll be handing you over to our Benin Network station for the rest of the program. Do stay.